I am Samuel Sagra, the son of Koklo, Sam King, yo, I'm made of everything. I am a bubble of bubbles, rippling connecting us a flow fractal. Yo, 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 hit that like button and subscribe. No, really, do it. All right, and we're live. PatchesFlows number 6, hanging out with Ben Harju. Am I saying your name right? Harju?
Harju.
Harju. Oh, I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
But here's the thing: like 99% of people in the world say Harju, Harja, Harju. So I'm cool with whatever.
Well, we can set the record straight right now. Harju.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like I just said before, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Me and a lot of people really look up to you as a really accomplished jeweler and just self-made business person. So just thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you having me. It's pretty exciting. This is my first podcast, so
dude.
Yeah,
nice.
You too. Yeah.
So I was just looking at your website and your about section, and I hadn't read it before, and I thought that was so cool. What a great story. You had got like food poisoning while traveling, and then your wife just brought you some pliers and steel wire, and that was like
So I had to set the whole record straight.
Yeah.
In 2004, 2005 in the winter, I lived in Olympia, Washington with some friends, and I met this guy named Dan who we were like really close friends, and I can't remember his last name because it's been 15 years now. But we're still friends on like Instagram and stuff like that. But he wire wrapped. No idea like what it was about. I mean, I went with him. We sat outside like local shows, and by the way, if the lighting gets weird, I can always move to a different spot or move inside or something.
You're fine. It's perfect.
And his stuff was like crazy good. Like even now, compared to a lot of people out there, his stuff, and everyone's doing really good. Keep pushing and everything. It's really exciting to see. But like his stuff was like mind-blowingly tight, and the stones he used were great. And I was sitting at his house one day, and he had some scrap wire on the table, and I just started like fiddling with it, not thinking anything, and then left his house, went home, and then like a week later, my roommate's like, "Hey, Dan said that you wire wrapped to his house," and I was like, "Nah, it's just messing with some scrap, And he's like, "He said that you did pretty good," and so I talked to Dan the next time I saw him, and he's just like, "Yeah, man," he's like, "Here's some like scrap wire, and here's a couple stones. Like, I feel like you could probably do pretty good in this industry just based off of the small thing you just made out of scrap at my house for your first time ever." And so I made maybe like one or two little wire wrap things, and kind of forgot about it years later. And then when I met my wife, we actually met fighting fire for the Forest Service.
Nice.
For her birthday gift, I made her like a little wire wrapped flower, and I put it in some garnet sand that I had collected from the river, and some sweet little thing, a little note. And so she already knew that like I kind of had an idea of, and she knew that I love working with my hands all the time anyway. I have my whole life, whether it's like welding or building structures or whatever. And so yeah, we were sick. We were backpacking after that fire season. We were backpacking with one of our best friends down in South America, and we went to Peru for a couple of weeks to do Machu Picchu and a couple other things. And I got wicked sick, like the deathbed of my life.
Jeez.
I probably was deader than dead could be at that point.
Food poisoning?
And, like food poisoning with some food poisoning added to it. It was, it was dreadful. But yeah, she brought me back like a pair of pliers and some like scrap basic steel wire from some local market thing, and she said, "Here, you might as well do something if you're gonna be laid up." And I spent the rest of that. We were down there for 3 months. I spent the rest of that, like we were in Colombia too, just like making little pendants out of coral and scrap metal and stuff like that, and got back to the States and decided I was just gonna keep doing it. And here we are. What is it? 9 years later.
Wow.
I'm doing crazy things.
Yeah, you are, man. Dude, that's amazing. So you had said that you always been sort of into making things and working with your hands. Mind if I ask where'd that come from? Where'd you get that?
I don't I don't really know. I mean, like my grandma was always super crafty, like she was having us do needlepoint stuff when we were little kids and making necklaces with beads and string and, gluing, all sorts of things together. And my mom has always been super artistic. She's a lot better at, collage work and painting and stuff like that. But we've always had drawers of random stuff like pieces of watches and this and that. And I guess just imagination of being a kid. I just always wanted to build stuff, and that led to take apart my BMX bike and just see how it works, and then put it back together with a few missing screws, and like take apart the vacuum, and then got a welding job out of high school and was doing fabrication work at a shop, like for big level, making like grain trucks and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know. I've always loved seeing end products of what my hands can do.
Nice. Yeah, I love it, man. It's I'm still working on being more prolific, but that feeling of when you conceive of something like that starts just as a spark, like just an idea, like, oh, maybe I could do that, and then it's like all the planning and work, and then you make it, and then maybe you mess it up, and then finally it's done, and you have this thing that you just made. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
and like it's just, I don't know, it's therapeutic too, like I'm sure it's just, I can kind of like drown out the rest of the world, um and just kind of like be in my own head and be in my own zone and just go for it. And I've always been kind of a MacGyver. Like I hate spending money on stuff, so if like something around the house needs to get fixed, I'll just scrounge around to see what kind of duct tape slash stick slash wire solution that I can rig up to make it work and still look decent without having to spend money. And I feel like that's where a lot of, especially like wire wrapping, like making jewelry is expensive.
yeah,
And so being able to like utilize all of your resources all the time it saves you a lot of money in the end, and it just helps you, I feel like, get more creative, because you're like, okay, I have like this pile of crap, but I need to make something out of it. Like, how can I make something aesthetic, even though right now this looks like something that would get swept underneath the rug.
yeah. When you first came back and you were first doing it, your first couple of years, were you working a day job and then doing jewelry on the side? And then at what point did that change? I don't even know if you're full time now. I assume you are, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've been full-time for about 4.5, well, yeah, 4.5 years now. So I started just doing it as like a side thing. I had a job when I met my wife, that was my 7th year of fighting forest fires. And
Wow.
just kind of like the stress of it on a relationship, both of us decided, and I decided that I was going to pursue other things and she was going to pursue other things. And I had not graduated college yet or anything like that. So I really had no idea where I was going to go. So that first year we got back in like March or end of March. I got a job as a landscaper doing pruning on trees and stuff like that. And then just would go home at night, wire wrap while we were watching shows on TV or whatever. Um, and kind of, it was pretty hard in the get go just because I had no money, like everything that I made was going towards paying our bills and stuff like that. And same with my, well, not wife, girlfriend at the time. Um, but it, I just, and I didn't make my first sale for 9 months or something
Dang.
after wire wrapping.
Wow.
Man, I didn't, like I didn't understand gems. And like when I saw an emerald that was on its natural matrix, but it was like just green colored quartz pretty much. I was like, oh, that's an emerald, not really knowing that, like,
The different grades.
yes, it is an emerald, but there's different grades for everything. And so in the beginning, it was kind of a lot of trial and error. Um, and then I remember when I made my first sale, it was on Etsy.
Oh wow.
And it was to some, it was just some woman who said like she just saw it and she felt like it was just some time in her life where there was a lot of change, and she just felt like it really spoke to her for that time of change. And I was just like so pumped and so like, oh, I can actually like sell stuff. And then it started happening like every few months I would sell one thing, and then I got this big break. I went around to local galleries in my town just to see like, hey, like what's going on, all this stuff. And this painting and photography gallery that was owned by a couple, they're just like, hey, like your stuff's really unique. What if would you want to put some pieces in our gallery? And I was like, yeah. They're like, cool, we'll charge you 25% commission. And I already kind of knew at the time what most people charge for commission in galleries, and usually it's like 50%.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm totally into that. So for 3 months, my stuff was in there, and it was a really big boost to my self-esteem. That like, I'm not just like making this to look at by myself. Like maybe other people want to look at my stuff too. And yeah, it just kept going from there. And then, so in that fall, since I quit fighting fire, I was like, well, I've always loved the human body. I love biology. I love anatomy. I'm going to become a nurse. And so I started going to college to become a nurse. I ended up making jewelry the entire time as much as I could, which was a lot. I mean, like I would work till 2, 3 in the morning, even on school nights, like whatever.
Wow.
I got a bachelor's of science in nursing. I graduated in December of 2014. And then I was and during that time I had my apprenticeship for fabricating jewelry and stuff like that. But, and I kind of had like this option of, do I want to become a nurse, a registered nurse full time, or do I want to make jewelry? And I talked to my wife, and I was just like, 1 year, I give it 1 year. If I can't pull this off and like do this for a living, I'm gonna become a nurse, like, and it's just been this awesome experience, and it's been 4.5 years now.
That's amazing, man. This is so cool. I wonder if that lady that got your first piece, or I think it was, the lady, the person that got your first piece on Etsy knows like what she has and like what you've become.
I've tried to find her. We were at one point friends on Facebook too.
It should be through the Etsy history. You should be able to message her unless you like close her account.
Okay, yeah, I haven't checked too far back. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Like message her like one of your new pieces. Be like, hey, remember me? You got like you were my first sale. Look what I do now.
But if she liked anything, it'd be kind of cool to like gift her something small, just as like a hey, thank you for being the first person to pull the trigger on what I do.
That's how I feel. I always feel so grateful that someone likes something that I made so much that they'll, spend their hard-earned money on it. That's such a cool story. So let's see. What are just random questions? So like, how did you start with copper? Or like, when did you switch to silver?
I started with silver.
Wow.
And it was really expensive. And if I would do it again, I'd probably start with copper. I've done a lot of copper wire stuff and a lot of copper fabrication stuff, but it was just, that's what, in 2004, when my buddy Dan, he gave me silver. And so in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to start with silver and go from there. But like I was saying, there were so many months where like I didn't have any sales or anything like that. I'm sure a lot of people have done this, where like I was scrounging the couch for change, and I was finding, a 3mm piece of silver that I put in a little baggie, and then I'd find some in the carpet, and then I'd find some here and there to make enough to send into a company to have it processed so that I could make $37 so that I could order 2 ounces of silver so that I could start making stuff, and
Wow.
Taking apart pieces so that it was just like it was a struggle for a long time. I was thankful that I had another job to help out.
When did you switch to or sorry, not switch. When did you start doing casting and fabrication? Fabrication, that's what I'm trying to say.
Let's see. It was like I started interest in it in 2012.
I guess specifically what I'm saying isn't when exactly, which you're welcome to say, but what prompted you to start fabricating? That's what I mean.
I loved wire wrapping, and I mean I did it every day for years. I kept wire in my pocket just to fiddle with, just to try different things, just to do whatever. I ran into a friend in public here, and she's like, "You don't stop, huh?" I was like, I need to stay busy,
Yeah.
but it was just I felt limited, you know what I mean? Like I felt like there was so much more to explore in the jewelry world besides just wire work that I just needed kind of more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to what is it, DC Metalworks, who was telling me I should get into fabrication. I was telling him, no, dude, I'm good. I like wire. I think you could do so much with wire. Um, Shout out to Tangi Deese, who's just a god of wire.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
actually asked me to tell you that you're amazing. So Tangi
Oh,
Deese
thank you.
sends
Thank you.
her appreciation regards.
Thank you.
But then, like a year later, after DC said that, I did start to get into fabrication. So he was right. Like I still love wire.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
And
mean it's
it's good to keep, like it's good to I feel like if I didn't do wire, I would not be where I'm at creatively in fabrication, you know what I mean? Not that that's true for everybody, because I know there's a lot of fabricators out there that never did wire and they're absolutely amazing. But like, if you look at most of my stuff, especially like my hand forged, hand fabricated stuff, it's like super wire based. I mean, and most people when they hit me up, they're like, how much is that new wrap? How much is that new, you know, piece? And I'm like, well, it's fabricated, but I could see where you would say that because it totally looks like a complicated wire wrap.
yeah. When did you do an apprenticeship? I was reading on your about page.
I think it was, let's see, I've been into it. It was like the fall of 2012 or 2013. I started on my own, just trying. I bought a little butane torch and I bought a hand crank drill and a jeweler's saw, and I used a 2x4 for my bench on my kitchen table. And because you have to hold the hand crank drill and crank it, but you can't hold the piece, and I didn't have any clamps.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the piece would spin. So I would lodge the handle of the hand crank drill under my chin, hold the piece on the 2x4, and crank it so I could drill holes in it. And then I would rivet it together, and I would put the stone in between two layers of metal, and I would rivet it together so that it would hold the stone in place. Because I had no idea how to actually set a stone at the time, besides, sandwiching them between two sheets. And like, you
Wow.
know, soldering with a butane torch was just not that easy. And so I was just like, I'm gonna put this on hold until I can get some help. And so my wife and I were downtown at the local Saturday market, and we walked by this jewelry shop that was independently owned, and we had never seen it before. So we walked in, and there was this young guy, my age, who ran the place, and I was just like, hey, like, we shot the shit for a while, and I was just like, hey, would you ever take on an apprentice? And he's like, I don't have time, I don't have space, but give me your card. If anything ever opens up, whatever, like I'll let you know. And a week later, he called me up and he's
Oh
like,
my god.
you want to grab some coffee? And I was like, yeah, I want to grab some coffee.
Oh my god.
He's like, bring in some of your stuff. Let me take a look to see what you've done so far. So I had some of my like rivet stuff and some of my wire wraps, and I brought it in. And he's just like, do you want to do this as a hobby? Do you want to learn some skills like soldering and then bail on me? He's like, because I'm going to be investing time in you, and I need to see some sort of
Commitment or return.
yeah, like, and not necessarily like a return in terms of money, but a return on his physical investment and time with me. Because, time is money, especially in the jewelry world. Because if you're making your own jewelry and you're not making jewelry, you're losing out every single hour that you're not working. You know what I mean?
Fire.
Yeah. And so he's like, all right, I give you 1 day a week. You can come and watch me work. I probably won't be able to show you anything physically, how to do stuff. You can just watch me. And I was like, done.
Wow.
And 1 day a week led to eventually 3 days a week to 5 days a week. I was doing, he made me like a kind of like his polish monkey for a while, where I just would polish for him, just to learn like basic skills. Like, you're polishing for the next 2 weeks. Everything I hand you, you have to polish. You have to do it well. You have to make it professional, and I will critique you along the way. And he was a great teacher, and he was super kind, but also like, he'd be like, this isn't here.
This
You have
isn't
to
a
redo
game.
this.
This
Like,
isn't a joke.
this is not going to work. Like, this is a $3,000 wedding ring. Like, fix this, make this better. Like, that's not the quality we're looking for, you know. At the same time, he'd be like, that's not the quality we're looking for. Let me show you how to get to that quality that we're looking for, and then you can do it too, you know. So eventually I worked for him doing a lot of repair work and custom jobs, and also shout out to Porsche's Jewelry Boutique here in Boise, Idaho. That's Philip is the owner. He's the one that gave me my shot.
This is
And
the person I was gonna ask.
Yeah, Philip Porsche.
Wow.
He was a master goldsmith. He is a master goldsmith and platinum smith, but he'd been doing it for like 14 years before I met him, and he's still doing it. I mean, he's still going strong. His shop is expanding every couple years. You know, they're just doing amazing things. He specializes in like estate vintage style jewelry, but they do some crazy stuff too.
How's he feel about how far you've come?
He thinks it's awesome. I mean, as far as we've talked, I mean, we see each other. You know, our families are great friends, so we see each other every week, every couple of weeks. You know, have a barbecue or go somewhere and hang out. He loves it. You know, like it's, and like I always try to give credit back to him. And you know, even on my website, I give credit back to him, and just because, like, I've worked with a few people as apprentices off and on, nothing huge, no big projects or anything, but I have a small grasp, and especially making my own stuff. Like I understand the commitment it takes to like take on someone to teach them while you're trying to grow yourself and grow your company and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and our
challenging.
stuff, like my stuff is way different than his and way different than what his shop has. So like we've definitely gone, you know, different directions. But that being said, like his shop does killer work.
Let's see. That reminded me here. Sam Gorin asked about your 3D printing and your CAD. He was asking the aspects that you like and dislike. But before I asked that, when did you start getting into CAD work with your jewelry? Or I keep saying when. I guess I mean what inspired you. Yeah.
So the Philip, my mentor, he did CAD work, you know, off and on for clients that wanted specific things that hand fabrication could have done, but it was just it's a different thing. Like CAD work generally takes as much time, if not longer, than hand fabrication.
Because it has to be perfect.
But because it has to be perfect, and there's a lot of like it's a whole different learning curve and stuff like that. But I just watch him do it every once in a while, and I was like, you know, I've always been decent with computers, so I was like, this could be cool, whatever. But then one of my good friends, he started a company making lace locks, which are, you know, that jewelry people put on the bottom lace of their shoe.
Yeah.
That
that's
you
called
lace
lace locks? Cool.
No, so he had those that he had custom made, and he at one point had the third largest Nike Air Force One sneaker collection in the world.
Wow.
But he was tired of lacing those in constantly. And so he had, and you're good to go.
Hold on, it cut out a second. You said he was tired of lacing them constantly, and then what was after that?
Oh, so he hired someone to build one with a push button spring mechanism, so you could flip it open, put it on a new shoe, lock it back in, and you wouldn't have to unlace your entire shoe. And he was building this company up. I mean, he has it patented and everything like that. And he's just like, hey, I need someone to do CAD render work to show to different companies like what their logo would look like on this lace lock. And he's like, I know you have access to a CAD program. Would you be willing to like go for it? And I was like, I can give it a shot and see what I can do. And so there wasn't really like a lot of inspiration to like move over. It was kind of like a necessity. He's like, you know, work for my company and do these computer generated renders on this CAD program for us. and there was no my mentor taught me for like 6 hours on how to use this CAD program, and this CAD program is like pretty
In
complex,
depth.
and so it was
Which program?
all it's 3D.
Hmm.
So it's specific for jewelry. However, you can tweak it to do anything. I mean, you can do engineering stuff. You can do, like at one point I was designing display cases and stuff like that. But yeah, so it was definitely a necessity more than an inspiration to switch over to CAD, and it was all there wasn't a lot of tutorials out. It was kind of just like point and click. What does this do? This doesn't do what I want it to do. I'll point and click on this. What does this do? Doesn't okay, this kind of does what I want it to, but how can I tweak it? And then, that was 4 years ago. So what is it? Over 1,000 hours of CAD since then.
Wow.
And still self-taught. They send me an email once in a while, like, you want to come down and do this 3-day advanced course on this and this and this? It's only like $1,500. And I'm like, no, like,
I don't need
thanks, but I can spend that $1,500 just pointing and clicking and figuring it out on my own if I need to.
Do you ever do tutorials on YouTube or read manuals or what is the extent of your self-teaching?
For CAD or everything?
I guess open-ended. Everything.
Okay.
I was
So
curious.
for CAD, I've done one tutorial ever for this program. And I forgot how to do everything that was in that tutorial. Because there's always more than one way to skin the cat on doing stuff in any computer program, like
Yeah.
you can tweak this a little bit to do exactly what this does. And that's, since I taught myself, I kind of just learned that way. And so when I get bombarded with new ideas on how to do the same thing, I just won't remember it because I've done this so many times. And then, yeah, and you have to pay for a yearly membership to be on their forum to look at their tutorials, which is cool because they have a lot of tutorials on their forum. But like I said, I don't like spending money. So I'd rather just point and click and figure it out on my own.
I've just done the free YouTube tutorials for various programs and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
What CAD program do you run?
I haven't done CAD. I've mainly all the Premiere, like all the video editing stuff. I taught myself with YouTube, and then Ableton for music making, mixing and mastering. So CAD. I mean, I used to make like levels for video games and stuff. It's been a while, but I do really appreciate it. And if I ever am going to learn it, I'll just watch a bunch of YouTube tutorials.
Yeah. With fabrication stuff, I learned all the basics from Philip, my mentor, and some advanced stuff like casting and stuff like that. But a lot of it was like he kind of just taught me and then would give me edit ideas along the way. But then it was just, I make something, how can I tweak it to be a little bit better next time? Or how can I modify it? Or what could I do differently? Or how can I polish better? Or how can I set stones better? And so every once in a while, I'll definitely watch stone setting on YouTube. Just because, I mean, there's some people out there that can set stones like nobody's business, and their accuracy is so good and they're so quick.
Got any shout outs about
that? GRS.
No.
So GRS for engraving and stone setting, I've never had the opportunity to go to one of their courses, but if I do have the opportunity, that's where I'm going to go, because those guys are they've always been super chill, super professional, and they're really talented. Like Jay Park, he does stuff with GRS and stuff like that. His engraving skills are some of the best, at least in this country, if not, in my opinion, some of the top 10 in the world.
Wow.
His accuracy is ridiculous. Helicopter flying over me right now.
It's all good.
But stone setting, I literally just YouTube and I just Google, or I just search, stone setting in stainless steel, or stone setting pave, micro pave, or, whatever, bezel, or not bezel, like flush setting a pear-shaped stone, or, whatever. And then I'll just sit for 45 minutes and just stare.
Yeah.
And try to absorb, okay, he used this burr and this drill bit to do this, and he used this tool to do this, and she did this with this, and she did this with this, and just kind of soak it up.
That's awesome, man. Do you mind? I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask. What would you say is a basic but comprehensive like or polishing regimen. Like what's your polishing steps? Just for a basic polish. I don't know if that's appropriate to ask.
You are wildly inappropriate for asking me that. No, no, no. I'm just kidding. No, that's good. It really depends on the metal type.
Silver is what I was thinking.
Let's just take silver. I mean, you can, depending on how crazy you want to get your polish and how crazy you want to get it. I mean, you can hand sand it, with, get your piece all done or whatever you want, or components of your piece, hand sand it with like a 800 grit and then a 1200 grit and then a 1500 grit. And then there's a huge variety of polishing rouges out there. I mean, you can sit with a cloth that's impregnated with a polishing rouge, like Sunshine Cloths. They make one that I really enjoy. And you can hand polish it, or you can just use your flex shaft or like an actual lathe polishing machine. There's like ZAM. There's Fabuluster, which is one I really enjoy. You can actually get the compounds that have specific kind of grits in them, kind of like diamond paste type ones. I prefer either ZAM or Fabuluster. ZAM's good, but ZAM tends to take a lot of metal off while you're polishing. So it definitely gets you that smooth, shiny surface and a good sheen, but you run the risk of rounding corners that you might not want rounded, or if you're doing like a prong set ring, you might, eat away at your prongs just a little bit too much. Whereas Fabuluster is kind of more of like the finished product polisher, so it just gives you that mirror finish without getting crazy with it.
I had read that you did like a ring in 15 minutes because you were gonna be late for a flight or something. Right?
Yeah, I did that one like a month ago.
What were the polishing steps in that ring?
So the other thing that I'll do is there's this you can buy, they're called pumice wheels. They're like 3M makes them, a couple other companies make them. They're just like rubber type discs you get for your flex shafts that have different grits in them, like medium, fine, coarse. And I use the medium one, and you can use it to like take out scratches or any like imperfections in your silver. And then you can go with Fabuluster and literally just polish it to like a super fine sheen. And a lot of times I'll polish underneath my microscope just so I know it's like perfect. You know what I mean?
So you hit it with the
one,
oh yeah, go ahead.
That one, my nephew, he had this piece of square silver that I had given him like a couple days prior, and he just came up to me literally like 15-20 minutes before we had to go to the airport, and
that's crazy, dude.
It's like, oh, can you set a stone in this for me? And I was like, well, not really. Like, we have to solder a setting for that stone, and we have to size it to your finger, and then we have to set the stone, and then we have to polish it. And he's like, he kind of gave me this like really like sad look, like,
oh my God.
And I was like, all right, dude, like, let's see what I can do. And so I quickly, figured out what size his finger was. I sized it on the thing in my shop, on my mandrel, or not my mandrel, my ring mandrel. And then I soldered a bezel cup setting on top, and then use my pumice wheel to just clean up all the ends, make sure nothing was sharp, nothing would poke, everything was lined up nicely. High polished it with Fabuluster, and then dropped the stone in underneath my scope, set the stone, took it off, gave it to him, and literally it was like 15 minutes later.
That's nuts, dude. That's legendary.
And it wasn't, I mean, like, I could have gone back, and I had to like kind of bore out the inside, because when he folded over so I guess I didn't do the whole thing in 15 minutes. He made a oval shape that would not make a ring out of the silver that I had to then make into something. But the inside, since it was square wire, it had that sharp lip on the inside. So I had to go bore out the inside and then polish that down and stuff like that. And it wasn't like a ring I'd enter in a competition or anything. But
no.
For 15 minutes for a 10-year-old, like, I was like, oh, man, that's pretty good.
Super noteworthy, man. That's so cool. So, I don't know. What do you do for fun these days? Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a pretty big family guy. We have a little 2-year-old and another guy on the way here in a couple weeks. So my wife and
Congrats.
I love the outdoors. Thank you. We love the outdoors. So usually, and we love traveling. We love food. So usually we're backpacking into some lake in the wilderness somewhere for a few days, or traveling. We just took our kid. We had a friend that wanted to propose to another friend in the Bahamas earlier this last, was it this year? Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, it was this year in the spring in March. So like we, grabbed the kid and we went down to the Bahamas for a week and
Nice.
found a small little island with no tourists and just kind of hung out. And um, we love traveling. So, like travel as much as we can, but it's pretty much just go hiking, backpacking, camping, you know, like I
Nice.
said, I spent 7 years fighting forest fires. So I spent most of that 7 years, minus the wintertime, outside every day in the mountains. Um, so I get pretty stir crazy. So does my wife if we're inside for too long. Uh, and then food, I mean, we love tasting other people's amazing food.
Cooking is such an art form too.
Yeah, I can cook edible food, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. How
Oh,
about you? What do you
yeah. I've too many hobbies, so I've narrowed it down. And with my brand, you were mentioning brands earlier. I decided to try and do it all at once. So,
Yeah.
I my name's Sam, but my friends call me Patches. When I joined, I ran away to the circus in 2012 with a
Oh,
cool juggler girl named Shapes. Was like, "Do you want to run away to the circus with me?" And I was like, "Yeah." And became Patches, and so my brand now is PatchesFlows, and I do music, beatbox, and music production, and I've been wire rapping for a little while, and just got into fabrication. I'm still really bad at it, but it's a great journey. I really love
yeah.
leather fabrication, so I make like leather pouches and starting to bejewel those,
That's a
and
whole different world, man. I've tried that. I can't.
it's
It's
a
too
lot
much
easier
math for
than
me.
it's a lot easier than metal. But I know that when you're familiar with something, it feels easy. Um, yeah, I noticed, and I was studying all these YouTubers doing these vlogs, and they pretty much all use this formula where they do their entertainment, whatever it may be, and then they sell Chinese sweaters in this certain way. So I'm basically taking their formula, but then instead of it being Chinese sweaters, I'm applying like the handmade art to it. So I'm making like a hybridization. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I love it. But and then I'm the opposite. I'm indoors, probably way too much.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the outdoors. I used to go to Bagby Hot Springs in Oregon. I don't know if you've heard of it, but a really nice
No,
hot
but
spring.
I'm sure
What do
Oregon's
you
got a lot of beautiful stuff. So,
do you listen to music, podcasts while you work? Do you have a ritual? May I ask about that?
um, do I have a ritual? Usually, my ritual is no sounds,
Mm.
and if I do, it's generally there's this YouTube channel. I can't remember what the official title of it is or who's running it, but I always type in Simpsons chill 24/7, and it's just a picture of like Homer driving a car that they just redo every 5 seconds,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just like the super chill, like down tempo house when they mix some like old, like old quotes from movies and every once in a while and stuff like that. Music generally I listen to like 90s hip hop, some early 2000s hip hop. Mostly it's heavy metal, and metalcore. Uh, just because I've kind of always found that it doesn't like get me amped up. It like kind of helps release some of that amped up energy, you know what I mean? Without
Mm.
having to like scream or yell or lift weights or whatever the deal is. But I can't listen to that when I make jewelry because if I'm frustrated on anything, it really adds to that frustration having like
Like
super loud guitar riffs
amplifies
going
it.
on and fucking 300 beats per minute drums going in the background super fast. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would say 90% of the time I don't listen to anything. I don't watch anything. It's just quiet and it's just kind of me and my work and zoning out.
Wow, laser focus. That's interesting. That's awesome. Yeah, man, the stuff you make these days. I mean, 'cause I haven't watched your whole history, but it's just. I mean, you're my favorite jeweler, dude. Like it's,
Thanks, man.
and
That means a lot. I appreciate that.
yeah, well, you're welcome. And it's cool because a lot of some of my other favorite jewelers, like literally haven't even returned a message, and I wasn't asking them to be on a podcast. They're just saying, oh, like, hey, you're amazing, you know, da da da. And you know, who knows the reasoning? I can't like assume anything, but I was really struck with how like humble and down to earth, and you know, you weren't like full of yourself, and I just really appreciate that because you would be warranted to be, man. Your skills are nuts.
I
You
would
know?
it's funny. Last night some guy hit me up on Instagram, and he just said, "My name is Sean." That was his direct message to my inbox, and I was like, "Hi, Sean," and he's like, "Holy crap! I didn't think you were gonna respond. I can't believe you responded to me. I've reached out to so many different jewelers I look up to, and none of them have responded." I was just like, honestly, you took the time to like reach out to me, so it's only fair if I have the time to take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 minute, half a minute, or whatever, to like reach back, even if it's just like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Like I'm busy at the moment, but hit me up in like a week or something like that, and we can chat about whatever. And also like I've met a lot of in any industry, I've met a lot of people that thought that their shit didn't stink. And I'm sure at times I thought my shit didn't stink. Um, but I had a lot of like ego checks along my process of this jewelry world thing. I've had a lot of times where my head was getting big and it got knocked down pretty fast, either by no sales, by, you know, my wife is really good at being like, hey, just remember, like, you're a human being and you've been where anyone else has been. And, like, you're not better than anybody else in this whole scheme of things. So just remember that, because I was super loving about it too, which I'm thankful for. And so I figure like when I talk to people in some industry or another, like when I talk to every time I've talked to you, you've always been the most professional, like polite, courteous, and interesting person to talk to. So like that's what I want. I want people to feel that when they talk to me, because it's not only going to build a good relationship with them, they're going to feel comfortable with me, but also like realistically, like they will probably become clients, like I don't just make jewelry because I love making jewelry. And don't get me wrong, I make jewelry because I love it.
Yeah.
I can't make jewelry and then just sit and look at it all day long. Like
No.
it has to go somewhere. But like, I don't want to walk into a store. I don't even want to walk into like an auto parts store and have the dude treat me like shit just because either he doesn't think I know enough or because he's just a grumpy dude or like whatever the case is. Like, and I don't want people to come to me, oh, like Ben does cool stuff, but he never responds to me. And when he does, he thinks his shit doesn't stink. And, but, like, it's not who I am and that's not who I want to be. So I just try to make it a point to, and my wife's always like, well, you talk to so many people every day. I'm like, yeah, it's not like, these long conversations, but if you hit me up, I'm going to 99% of the time, I'm going to respond to you. And if I'm not, it's because I'm literally like walking into a store or like, I'm at the bench and I'm about to set some stone I don't want to end up cracking if I'm not paying attention. So I need to focus on that. And then like, maybe I'll accidentally forget about that message and hopefully that person will hit me up again. Like, hey, I reached out a week ago, but you didn't respond. Like, what's up? And then I'm like, oh shit, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all human, man. But dude, yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate it. And thanks for the compliment saying I'm professional. I try to be. Definitely not everyone would say that, but we do the best we can. Great answer.
Well, I say this a lot, but like, especially in the business world, like if you drink from every cup that's handed to you, one of them's gonna have poison, right?
Yeah, dude, I never heard
Like
that quote, but I so agree.
if you if
Holy
you
crap.
if you just like put your stuff in any gallery because they said you can and collaborate with any artist because they want to collaborate with you, and like whatever the case may be, like that could burn you in the end as your image as a person. Like that could end up being a bad situation. um like I used to do collaboration work with other artists on jewelry, and I've gotten burned a couple times to the point of like, you know I don't it's I'm cautious to the point where I haven't even attempted that in years because of the things that happened. Because I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like this sounds like fun, like blah blah. And then like it just ended up being a terrible situation for me. Everyone else was doing great.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some. I hear you.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, but like, there's jewelry shops that I probably wouldn't have my jewelry in just because of maybe the image they portray, or like I've had some influencers on Instagram hit me up like, hey, like I'd love to share your stuff. And like maybe if I have 1 million followers, maybe if you want to kick me something, I'd love to post it, which is a great way to get your name out there.
Yeah, especially if you do something that's proportional, like maybe a mini or something that wouldn't be too costly, to you.
Yeah. But then like looking at their page, it might not be the kind of thing that I really want to have my stuff associated with, like it may
Totally.
not, it just may not be the right feel. And so you just gotta, and so I guess the whole point of this is like with you, like you reached out like, dude, you want to do a podcast? And I'm like, yeah, like we have a great working relationship and friendship. And like, that is a cup that I want to drink from. It's not like this. And if it wasn't, I would have been like, nah, it's not for me, or it's not going to be a good fit. Yeah. Anyway,
That's awesome, man.
That's why I said, yeah. Cause, that's a good cup to drink from.
I really appreciate it, and I love your analogies. Let me flip it a little. So, as jewelers, we're sitting a lot working. Shout out to Dreamweave Designs. Right now, he's going through a renaissance in yoga and learning how to take care of his back and his body so he can be, great at the bench. Do you have any kind of regimen or routine that you do to counteract all the sitting? I know you said you go out a lot, so that hiking definitely helps.
Yeah. So before I met my wife, I fought fire. So we always had to be in pretty good shape. We had to be able to hike in a dig line for upwards of 16 hours straight. Wow. And, like while you're carrying a 45-pound pack, and I ran chainsaw on my crew a lot. So, you're hunched over and you got a chainsaw cutting down trees and brush a foot from the ground for 12 to 16 hours straight.
That's crazy.
And so when I left that, it's just like I feel like I've always had to stay active. So for my bench stuff, I just lift a lot of weights so that I can maintain posture. I try to make sure that when I'm like underneath my scope, my chair is low enough where I have to sit as straight as possible to see through my scope, instead of kind of like hunched over. Like this whole podcast I've been hunched over, but it's just because my table is the same height as my bench right here. But
yeah, and this isn't your usual situation, so you're always aware. You're always really aware of your bench ergonomics. You don't forget about that.
Yeah, bench ergonomics. Taking breaks, standing up every half an hour, walking to the other side of the shop and back, even like going outside for a quick 5-minute break just to walk around the neighborhood, like stretching my hands constantly, because a lot of people have vices and stuff that they put their jewelry in like thermal bond tacking stuff to keep it from moving.
Yeah.
And I've never used it. I've always used my left hand to hold the piece on my bench pin.
Wow.
It's funny, Sean Smokovich, I posted that on my Facebook the other day, and he's like, you got to take care of the ones that take care of you. And I was like, true, but that's just not how I work, My pieces have gems on the side and the back and under and around and here and there and that. And so like, I just don't have the patience or time to reset something in that thermal lock, set 5 stones, heat it up, take the piece out, reset it at a different angle. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of, like hand stretches, finger stretches. Cause like literally, yeah, I've always joked like, yeah,
Yeah.
that, my left hand is my jewelry's best friend, because it's my right hand does all the drilling, all the stone setting. My left hand literally just holds it. I've tried burnishing and stuff and like setting stones in my left hand, but it never works out. It's just kind of just there to hold everything.
That's so interesting and trippy, man. That's awesome. This is great, dude. This is so cool. Let's see.
And I've also, because of that, I've put a lot of drill bits through my fingers.
Oh.
And I've missed when I'm setting stones with like a beating tool, like doing pave work, it's slipped, because if you don't have a perfect edge on your beating tool, it's rounded off, so you tend to slip. And I'll cram that. I mean, I have, you won't be able to see it on the video, but I have dark spots in my fingers of where my tools embedded things and then they kind of stayed. And so I have super callous fingers. And so this brings me to a quick thing. So like, if you see a lot of my pictures and videos, I got gloves on, right? It's not because I'm like trying to be like, I'm fancy, like, which is cool. Like if you want to be fancy with it, it's because my fingers are gnarly. Like I lift heavy weights. I work at my house. Like I work in the yard. I chop firewood, and, I'm constantly doing gardening stuff and hauling bricks around and stuff like that, and fixing things on the house and building patios and all that stuff. But my fingers like get so callous and gnarly that I have to like remove the calluses in order to feel stones when I pick them up. Otherwise I can't feel anything, because I use my hands, especially my left hand, so much. But also like when I take pictures and videos of jewelry, I use my left hand to hold the piece, because it's easier for me to use my right hand to take the shot and all this stuff if I'm holding it. But like, totally. I used to show my hand, and then I'll get all these comments like, it's an amazing piece of jewelry, but bro, your fingers are gnarly.
That's rough, bro.
You know what I mean? Like, and so it was just like, all right, well, like there's a limit to gnarliness, and sometimes my hands look better than other times. But overall, it's just easier putting on a glove instead of having like these gnarly hands. And people are like, well, why don't you get someone else to model it? And it's just like, well, yeah, I can, but like that's a lot of extra work. But also like, I know when I make a piece, every little detail about it, and I know which details I really want to highlight for my clients to see.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be my hand to like show what I've done and what I created for my clients.
That makes sense to me. I never even would have thought to get someone else to model it unless it was like them wearing it in like a photo shoot type of situation. Yeah. No, that's funny because, most higher end jewelers wear the glove probably, well, who maybe some of them are for that same reason. But, just because, well, and actually that's a good transition because because, people that usually spend a lot of money on luxury goods are usually so particular about this and that. So I was going to ask, how has your marketing evolved? Without, like we said earlier beforehand, like asking super specifics, but like if there is some, beginner intermediate jeweler watching this, how would you suggest they evolve their marketing, or how has your marketing evolved? Sort of open-ended, if you'd care to share anything about that.
Yeah. I would say my first thing is just like have those conversations with clients, potential clients, and try to keep emotion out of it. Like it's hard. And I've had many times in my career where it's like, the old saying, like, oh, I've had, 10 people hit me up and then I tell them the price and then they ghost me. Or I had someone ask me about doing a custom and I designed it for them and then they ghosted me. And that's life. Like that's life as a salesperson. And if you're making your own jewelry, then you're going to be your own salesperson generally. And you can't put like your emotion into that. You just have to keep having those conversations. Like if someone ghosts you, okay, well, apparently that wasn't for them. Maybe they'll come back in the future. Maybe they won't, but like move on. Don't think about it. Don't let it affect your day, because if it did, and I have let it affect my day where it was just, and that was a lot earlier in my career where it's just like, I can't take this. Or like if it's a slow month or slow 2 months or slow 3 months, it can get defeating where you're making stuff and posting stuff and you're not getting looks, you're not getting likes, you're not getting conversions on anything, and you start feeling defeated. And the best thing I always tell people that feel that is like, it's okay to feel defeated and it's okay to feel down about it, but like, put your head down and get back to work. Whether that's trying to figure out why has it been a slow few months, is it because you're posting at the wrong time of the day? Is it because your video is bad, your photography is bad? Is it because you're posting to the wrong demographic? Or is it because I've made pieces that just plain sucked. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, me too.
I thought sucked and that my clients thought sucked, and that I have sitting in my shop to this day in a drawer as like my reminder of like, don't forget, you're human and you will make things that suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like having those conversations with clients, I think is the biggest thing marketing wise. And then just paying attention to everything. Pay attention to like, when you're if you're doing online social media stuff, which is my bread and butter, pay attention to when you're posting. Do research into your market and what time of day do most people look at jewelry and fashion. Like Hootsuite just put out something that said on, was it Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at noon is the best time to post something fashion related.
Trippy.
That being said, my clients and my fans usually are not on social media at noon any day of the week. So that doesn't work for me. So you got to pay attention to stuff like that. Like look at your insights on your Facebook, and look at your insights on your Instagram, and look at like, where are my followers the most active? What are they looking at? Like look at some of your followers' profiles and look at what they post and see like, what are their interests, and get to know, ask them questions. Like post something like, hey, do you prefer grape jelly or strawberry jelly? That has nothing to do with jewelry, but it will get people engaged with you. And also you just get to know your client base. Like you get to know people, and it will help you in the end to know who you're selling to. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because we're all humans.
We're all
real
humans,
people,
and everybody has differences. You know what I mean? And like, for the first like 2 years of me wire wrapping, women above the age of 50 were my biggest client base.
Wow.
It was just, that's what it was. Those were the ones that engaged with me. Those are the ones that bought stuff. That's just where it was. So, my focus wasn't, hashtagging old women or, like anything like that. But it was just
hashtag like, cougar.
Yeah. Like, it was just good for me to know, like, what is my client demographic right now? Right now, my client demographic is like 68% men between the age of 25 and 34.
Wow.
And then, I have outliers, younger and older. Yeah, totally. And women is what, like 32%, 31% in that same age group. So like my follower base is not this generally older crowd or generally young crowd. It's like our generation of people really dig my stuff, which is helpful for me because like if I was catering to like a 60 to 70-year-old demographic, that might be a lot harder for me to try to kind of fit into what they view jewelry as, because it's a different jewelry world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Are you pretty much self-taught as well? Well, I guess self-taught is vague. Did you do tutorials about marketing and stuff like that, or did you just push buttons, as you said earlier? Like, how did you evolve your marketing ability?
So most of it was just doing that research, looking at my insights, going and Googling what
so you
what's
read
the new
articles.
algorithm. Yeah, like what's the new algorithm on Facebook, and what's the new algorithm for Instagram, and how is that going to change how my stuff is being seen? And then recently, in the last month or so, I've been talking with a local small business expert on kind of like my brand and my website and stuff like that. But she's really new to the Instagram scene too, in terms of marketing and stuff like that. So it's been a learning process. You know, I've taught her some stuff, she's taught me some stuff, but it's been a great asset to have her kind of mentor me in terms of all that. But a lot of it literally was like trial and error. You know, like if I post something at 10 in the morning on a Wednesday and I see that I have 47 views in 3 hours and I have 17,500 followers, either the piece is horrible or this was totally the wrong time to post this and the wrong day to post this. You know what I mean?
Probably the latter.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, there's some times where we call them the eggplants, where it's like I made a piece once that it was supposed to be like a smooth wishing stone you keep in your pocket made out of silver, but it looked like an eggplant. My mentor was like, dude, that is ridiculous. I was like, yeah, it's now going to go in the drawer of my bench because everything is now going to be, that's the eggplant.
I have one that I saved. I have my first one that was super wonky, but it was my first. And then I have one like that I did partway through that just came out all like crooked and crap. And yeah, just keep it.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that, you know, it's that like we're always growing as artists. You know what I mean? Like I will never feel fulfilled to the max in terms of my knowledge and skills with anything jewelry related, because I guarantee you there's always more critiquing and perfection I can do every single time I sit down at the bench.
Yeah, man. And you're still young too. Like, I mean, if you stick with it, and obviously I don't see why you wouldn't, who even knows, you know, like what you'd be doing in another 10 years. I mean, your style's nuts, dude. Like, it's so cool.
I try to kind of like surprise myself. And so, like, if I'm not surprised, I feel like a lot of my fans won't be surprised. And by the way, thank you, all my fans. I'm here because of you guys. I know that's kind of cheesy or whatever.
No,
but like,
no, it's not. It's legit and it's true.
If you guys didn't buy my stuff and support me, you know, I'd be a registered nurse and I'd be doing something meaningful in a different way. But, you know, you can't, unless you have some trust fund or some huge bankroll that can fund everything where you just make stuff because you love making stuff. Like, I need my fans and clients. Otherwise, I can't continue to make stuff. So.
Dude, you're doing a great job, man. Let me go over to some of the audience questions if you're cool with that. Yeah. So I touched on it earlier. So Sam Gorin asks, what are some of the aspects of 3D printing that you like and dislike? So are you 3D printing your wax cast, or do you outsource the CAD, right? Or I don't know exactly what.
Both. So
oh wow.
It really just depends on like my shop setup. Since I left the jewelry shop I was working at, we had a really great casting setup there. So there it was a lot of, we never outsourced really anything. It was a lot of in-house. I did everything. And now it's kind of hit and miss with that. There's a lot of companies that do an amazing job because they have
specialization,
you know,
man.
They have specialization. They have incredibly high-end machines, you know, like stuff that I could never afford to have in my shop. And so if I want something perfect and done right, and then I will definitely outsource to them. So then I would send them a CAD file. They would grow it in a 3D printable resin. They would put it in plaster. Then they cast it in whatever metal I asked them to cast it in, send it back to me. Then I clean it all up, and then I set stones and do detail work and all that stuff.
So cool.
But yeah, like I definitely, I mean, my roots were hand carving wax, you know, like I wasn't CADing stuff. And I still do some hand carved wax. It just really depends on
the piece.
Every piece is different, and some things, they will end up being a better product if you CAD it, and some things will be a better product if you hand make it. Like
totally.
And they just have different feels to them, and so yeah. But I love CAD because, like I said earlier, you can spend as much time or more CADing something, and then you have to think it's not even done yet. Like. You still have a lot of steps along the way before that's done. And so in the beginning, when I was CADing and stuff like that, there was kind of a lot of blowback in our subculture of
like stigma.
Oh, yeah, you're not really goldsmith, you're just a stone setter, all this stuff. And it's like, if I only did CAD work and then set stones, then yeah, I could see how that label would be different. But like, I make my own golds and I'll make my own silver alloys. And, you've seen the videos on YouTube of me like pouring metals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'll also CAD because I just love having that breadth of knowledge of skills, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, CAD stands for computer aided design. It's still not doing the work for you. I personally am a fan. You mentioned alloys. Helios Heartstar asks, he would love to know how you learned to make alloys.
So when I was doing my apprenticeship, I learned the basics of like, if your wax weighs this much, then you're going to need X amount of weight in this type of metal to do it. But then it was like, okay, well, I want to do 14 karat. Well, my mentor was never usually like, let's order up 14 karat gold shot from this manufacturer and use that. He's like, let's order up the gold and then we'll order up the alloys and we'll just make our own. Because a lot of those companies, even with MSDS sheets and stuff like that, you don't know every alloy that might be in that extra mix. And I really like to know like what's going into my stuff. So he taught me the basics of like, if you were going down to 18 karat from 24 karat, you're going to need 75% pure gold and 25% alloy. Whatever you're doing, if you're going to do a rose gold, you're going to want to have, majority of copper, but you want a little silver. Otherwise, it's going to be as hard as a rock, which I tend to use all copper for my gold alloys because even though it's as hard as a rock and it's a nightmare to set stones in, it's the color is a little more vibrant than if you even add like 3% silver and you have 22% copper and 75% gold. And then after that, it was just a lot of trial and error. Like if I take, let's say, if I take 68% pure gold and I take 30 or 22% copper and I take 10% silver and I pour it into an ingot, like what does it look like? How does it work? How does it roll through a rolling mill? Is this something that I like? No. Okay. Well, now I know. Or even with silver, like if you add, what is it? If you add like 2% zinc and it was something like 4% gold to pure silver, you'll get like this gray silver and not like a silver. But you can side by side it and see that there's a difference. But it's because you add the zinc. So zinc has a lower melting point than all those other metals. And it's really soft. And so it makes it, and your silver is already super soft anyway. Fine silver is like crazy soft.
Yeah.
And so if you add zinc to that, you're making a lower melting point for the whole mix, but also a lot softer. So those things are good for like bigger pieces where it's not going to bend. Because I mean, like if you even have like a 2 millimeter like square gauge of that certain mix, I mean, that thing's like, it's like bending a blade of grass. It's super flimsy. So you have to be careful. But like that was just trial and error. And I like the way it worked. Or like my custom, that hepatazone alloy that I do. There's actually so that alloy was used like in the Corinthian bronze back like thousands of years ago.
Wow.
And they have no record of what it actually was. I mean, they have like 2 pieces ever known to still exist from this besides manuscripts and literature. But they haven't done any good job about breaking down the percentages of what's what. But when you patina it, it has like this eggplant purple color to it. It's not like your typical black or gray or charcoal color. So like coming up with that one was trial and error. It's like, I'm going to mix, I know probably what's in it. So I'm going to mix X percentage of this with this and this and this and see how it turns out. Okay. It turned out cool, but not that cool. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, just trial and error.
Wow, man. It's astonishing how deep you are into it. It reminds me of that quote, if you want to bake an apple pie from scratch, first you must create the universe. It's so trippy, dude.
I like that one. Yeah, it's true. And it doesn't happen often. Like, it's not like I'm sitting on pounds of gold that I can just, I'm going to try 63%. Now I'm going to try 64%. You know, it's like when I get that opportunity to work with gold, then I'll kind of like set aside like a couple grams, a few grams to play with something, and I will use it in something. It's not like I just try it and then I let it sit or send it back to refiner and have them refine it. It's like I'll use it and then I'll just try to remember like what that combination was to make it what it was.
Yeah, brilliant, man. Sam Gorin asks, and then I was thinking too, what are, what do you want to, how do you want to take this into the future? What are anything you care to share about, what you envision for yourself in the next 10 years? I know you got your family going on. I think he was more meaning about your art, but it is an open-ended question.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was wondering about your art too.
Well, I was asked by my one of my buddies who's a videographer who's done a lot of amazing documentaries and stuff like that. He's like, what is your goal? Like, why do you do what you do? What would you say to people? And I thought about it, and I thought, I love my family more than anything else in the world. And so if I get to spend time with my family, that is my end goal. Like, I always love making stuff, and I always love making stuff, and I always see myself making jewelry. But like being some, well-known massive jewelry artist, or even having my name and having 1,000 people making my stuff that I never see or anything, like, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to drive a Lamborghini. I don't want a mansion, like I just want to spend time with my family and make jewelry.
Totally.
And I always want to shock myself in terms of what I make. And I have a really short attention span for my own imagination. And so, I'll make something. I'm like, this is incredible. This is amazing. How can I make that better next time, or make that different next time? You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, I think definitely he and I were talking about, just what you were creating. You don't have the vibe of someone who, I mean, you pretty much understand that fame is a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, so I feel you on that. Last question I got here. Sam wanted to know, what were some of your favorite tools?
I would say my all-time favorite tool is my microscope.
Yeah, which one you rocking?
I don't even know. I got it from autofray.com. It's I can't remember the brand of it. I've never really cared too much about brands. I just, if it is a good product and it works, then I will use it. If it's not, like I've had 2 different flex shafts now in my day. I don't even know the brand I have right now. I think it's a Fordham, but I had a Rio Grande brand before that, and that one worked. I mean, that was used. I bought from a friend for like $20 when I first started.
Wow.
And he had that for like 10 years, and then I used that for like 6 years. And finally got to the point where there was so much chatter when I was trying to burr in stone settings and stuff like that, that I had to upgrade. But
that's crazy. 16 years. Holy crap.
Yeah. I would say my flex shaft and my microscope. I mean, those are some basics, but like you can really do so much with both of those, and you can get such a level of detail that, yeah. I mean, I would say if I could list, I'm gonna go off and list like a handful of things I use on a daily basis at the shop if I'm not doing CAD work. I use this big old bastard file. So like this thing has gnarly teeth on it. I mean, this is for sharpening like axes and like lawnmower blades and stuff like that. But it's really great about getting material off fast. And then I'll go in with the pumice. So the bastard file, pumice wheel, flex shaft, microscope. My beading tool is like an extension of me.
Wow.
I don't know if you've seen a lot of the pieces where you see like all the detail on it and stuff like that. Like some of those pieces have over 1,000 individually placed marks that I'll do with different size beading tools in different designs and different stuff like that. Kind of like dot painting. Yeah. And then my pocket knife. I don't engrave. Like I don't have an engraver. Like I have an engraver, but I've never used it. And
What?
when I was taught how to engrave basic stuff, like pushing for prongs and stuff like that, I was taught to do it by hand, not with the pneumatic engraver. But it's never really been my thing. Like, and shout out to everyone that's doing engraving. Like, that's a whole different world, man.
Yeah, there's some
That's
beautiful engravers out there, that's for sure.
that's some crazy shit. So like, if I have a little edge of metal on something that I can't reach that I want to flick off, I won't grab an engraving blade or anything. I mean, I have some, but I don't really use them. I'll just grab my pocket knife, open it up, and get it in there and just, click it off. But it's like I said, I started with a hand crank drill underneath my chin. You know what I mean? So like, and that's about it. Like, it's pretty basic. I have a box of burrs that I use. In terms of burr wise for any stone setting or anything like that, ball burrs are my favorite, hands down. Setting burrs are cool and everything, but they give you that nice flat lip on the inside when you go to make your seat for your stone. But they're really finicky in terms of like, you can't go from a 1.5 millimeter setting burr to a 2.25 millimeter setting burr, because it doesn't have enough teeth and grip to get that out. And if it does, you're going to burn up that burr with like 1 to 2 uses. Whereas ball burrs, I mean, you can go from a 1.5 to 2.25, no problem. And it just eats away that metal.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Who are some of your favorite jewelers, past, present, and future, that you think have, really inspiring, awesome designs? Open-ended, and I know you wouldn't be able to remember all of them now, so I know it's sort of a even maybe
hands
recently.
down, Casey Swanson, he goes by Silvius Denario. He's on Instagram as SD Graham, and he's on Facebook, I think, as just SD, or maybe SD Graham. I don't know what he's on Facebook.
Cool. I haven't seen him yet.
He's old, like he's been doing it before I was wire wrapping. He's been doing fabrication. He had wire aspects to it and stuff like that. He's like the most sci-fi. I love sci-fi things and sci-fi themes and like futuristic stuff. And his stuff it's so unique and so well done. And he carves his own stones now. You should check him out on Instagram.
Oh, I will.
Fucking crazy.
I love sci-fi.
Crazy good. And he'll like pop up once a year with this new piece, and that's it. And it's like the fucking coolest thing you've ever seen. And then he just like disappears. So he like has this, he's like an enigma, and like has this like, think about him. And then like classic wire rappers, like like Ben Claus. Like I looked up to him since day one, and he's doing tons of cool fab stuff now. Bobby from Solo Pieces, rest in peace. He did stuff that was it was so him, and it was so unique and so clean and so good. And his use of like colors and textures and stuff like that, and his wire work was just phenomenal. Wow. Sarah Williams, she does mostly engagement stuff now, but she does some other cool stuff. But her classic, like hybrid stuff, always has a place in my heart. It was just like her use of gem and quality gems was so good, and is so good. I mean, to this day, but like just super clean.
What was her name again?
Sarah Williams.
Gotcha.
And then like Graham Bantlaw, like he's always just done his thing. You know what I mean? Like he's back when he was wire wrapping, now he's doing fab stuff and CAD stuff. He's always just been true to him, and it's always just an inspiration to see stuff like that. I mean,
I know there's so many, and it's hard to think of them all, especially like in the moment. So
like when I started wire wrapping, there was probably 10 to 15 people that were the people, like they were the ones that kind of set the stage. I mean, there was people before them, and I can't remember their names right now, that kind of like, they didn't invent wire wrapping, because nobody really invented wire wrapping. I mean, it's been around since, Egyptian time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they really kind of built a scene for it. Um, I'm trying Liam Powers.
Mm,
Uh,
I've heard his name before.
yeah, Liam has always done his work is so clean, and he's always had that sci-fi feel to it. Buddy Austin from Third Eye Assembly. Uh, they're always just they've had their own style and they've always perfected that over and over and over again. Um, and like Liam he did a goblet that he entered in Spectrum AGTA Spectrum Awards like 2 or 3 years ago for objects of art, and I think he took third or second place.
Wow.
And it was like the fucking coolest goblet you could ever imagine. And it was so well done and so unique and so clean and so big. I mean, it was like a fucking cup, like it was like what the king drinks or what the king has on his shelf because he'll never drink out of.
Yeah.
And I hit him up. I'm like, dude, I saw you place. Like, good job. He's like, yeah. I wonder who placed above me. I was like, I am very surprised that anybody placed above you, just because the uniqueness and the quality of it was just phenomenal. So,
Wow.
yeah. And I mean, I still look up to all those guys just because, you know, I may or may not be on a level somewhere near them. Maybe I'm here and they're here. Maybe we're, but like I said, they stick to their talents and they stick to them very well. And so it's always fun to see them come out with new stuff. And it's fun to see everyone come out with new stuff. I mean, there's people that are just new to the scene that like, I can't remember this dude's name. He's an artist that works with a friend and client of mine. I'll have to hit you up later on with the name, but he's like 22 years old, and this dude is like phenomenal, I'm like, it's almost disheartening. It's like, well, if you're this good at 22 and I'm 36, like,
hey, we're the same age.
By the time when's your birthday?
December 28th, 82.
October 27th, 82.
Nice.
But yeah, it's inspiring to see like these dudes. And was it Tristan? He got his wire wrap in Saul Bell and placed in like the upcoming. Was that him?
Yeah, Tristan Dunn.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
It's so fun to see people just going for it. You know what I mean? Like everybody going for it. It's someone that's got some copper and some beads that's trying to go for it. To people that like you only hope to achieve that level someday.
It's interesting. Passion can go a long way. Like I said, I've been studying the YouTube game, and there's only a couple real jewelry YouTubers, like literally only a couple that I've seen, and they're that sort of Beverly Hills style. So yeah, it's super expensive, and yeah, it's like skilled and all that, but I mean, it's really not. Filled with the same passion that the kind of stuff that all these people you're mentioning are doing. It's just like they 3D printed a thing, like a basic shape for a wrapper, like, oh, it's some dude's face, and then they pavate the whole thing in the most VS diamonds they could find. It's like, okay, and it's like 150,000. It's like, okay, great. I mean, I'd much rather have a piece from you or a piece from Sarah or a piece from Tristan, like, any day of the week, even though it's going to be less expensive, quote unquote.
Yeah, for sure. And it, like if I had a rapper hit me up and he's like, bro, like, give me my name or give me my logo and cover it in VS1 diamonds and I'll pay you whatever. I'll be like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you do a good job of it because you're passionate.
Because I'm happy to do customs for clients. I love doing customs for clients. But, I also just really love just getting as creative as possible every time I sit down at the bench.
All right, check. I think it cut out one more time, but I heard everything you said. Yeah, man.
Shout out to all the gem artists out there.
Oh, hold on. It's tripping out. The audio is tripping. Let me just reconnect for the last bit here. Give me an audio test real quick.
Hey.
It's tripping out. All right, let's just reconnect here.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, quick shout out to all the gem artists out there too.
Yeah.
Like Dalen Hargrave, when he turned 50, 60, I can't remember. He gave out that many stones that year to people that he thought deserved it, thought that it would be a good like push for them to get more creative, that he just wanted to gift to or whatever. And he gifted me one of his cut stones. And I still have it. It's like that first dollar you earn at your business, you know what I mean? You frame it on the wall. And um, people like him and Hash New Stones, Mark over at Hash New Stones on Instagram, and like Meg Berry and Todd Wax and like Ryan Anderson and all these people that I have the opportunity to work with their stones and that will do custom cuts for me, but also like allow me to work with their art. It helps push my imagination in my mind, and I get to look at crazy beautiful shit. Like stuff that I could only imagine ever creating.
Yeah.
So shout out to all those guys.
Yeah, man. The audio is distorting. I hear you. Let's try and reconnect really quick to catch this outro without distortion. You want to try and just
Yeah,
disconnect and then reconnect? I think that'll fix it.
yeah. I gotta find where to do that.
Yeah, we got it.
Stop video.
Yeah, I think something like that.
And start video.
So you might actually have to just exit out of it and then just
Okay.
re-click the link I sent you.
Okay.
Just a little technical difficulties. Man, y'all, this has been by far the best interview I've ever done. This guy is so inspirational and so accomplished. If you're watching this, you probably already know who he is and what he does, but definitely go check out Ben's work. It's astonishing. And I've only heard of probably 20% of the people that he just suggested, so I really look forward to peeping all that as well. Let's see if we can get connected and get good audio for this outro here. Technical difficulties. Da, 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 da. Check, check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why the audio is tripping now. But man, dude, this has been like absolutely the best. I was just saying to people that this is just the best opportunity, and you did amazing, man. You're a natural at this. It's just a little
I think if you give someone a platform to talk about themselves, it's pretty easy to just rant on about whatever. But I'm super stoked. I really appreciate it.
Oh my god, the audio is so bad. All right, I'm gonna just Facebook call you real quick, and then we'll finish it up. All right, I'm just gonna Facebook call you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, we got this. Come on, outro. Gotta get the outro. If I was perfect at episode 6, it wouldn't. All right, dude. It's good now. Sorry about that.
I love you, Kyle. I was just saying thank you. This has been super fun. I feel like I want to do a bunch of podcasts now.
Dude, you're awesome at it, man. Love what you're doing. Last question that I have is, and you've already obviously answered this in so many ways, but what would you say to some, up and coming jeweler or even just any type of artist who just wants to work for themselves, wants to make something and just, it can seem so daunting. I know that's sort of a lot of pressure, but what advice would you throw out there,
Take it in steps. Like I said when I started, I had a hand crank drill and a 2x4. Like don't think that you need a $10,000 setup to start making rings or pendants or whatever. Just get to that point, like make sure that you have enough to pay bills or you have enough to keep going and buy more materials, and then you can upgrade your materials as you go, and you don't have to start off with silver, you don't have to start with gold. You can if you want. Like I started off with silver. But also, like, I tell one of my buddies here in town, I'm like, I think one of my my biggest reasons where I can keep doing the creative stuff I do is like, I was telling them, like, when everyone else is sleeping, I'm still awake. You know what I mean? Like, if it's, and that might be literal, that might be like I'm literally awake at 3 in the morning, like at my shop, or I might be awake at 3 in the morning, like trying to find a new gem dealer, or trying to find some inspiration through people's paintings, or researching business methods, or like whatever, you know, like, and like I said, when I used to carry around a piece of wire in my pocket, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh, you know, like I made this cool piece and then I'm gonna go party, or I'm gonna go do this for a few weeks and kind of ride that gravy train, you know, because I feel really good about it. It's like, okay, I made this cool piece last night and I finished it up. Well, I'm gonna put my head down. Let's get started again. You know what I mean?
So stay
Like,
dedicated, stay committed, and keep going.
stay committed and like eat it up. You know, like absorb all knowledge you can and utilize it. You know, it's great if you know everything about everything, but if you're not actually doing anything with that information, then it doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not using the tools that you've discovered or been provided for you, then pass those tools on to someone else and do something different. You know what I mean? Like, and use that stuff, those mental tools and those physical tools, use that stuff until it breaks. And then when it breaks, find a way to fix those tools. You know what I mean? Like, keep building off of everything that you've done. And don't, I mean, it's easy to give up. And there are times where I was like, man, I feel like giving up. This is hard. You know, it's been 6 months. I haven't made a sale, blah, blah, blah. And then I just basically said, fuck it. And I put my head down and got back to work.
So even if someone feels like they're not being as successful as they wish they were, just keep going and you'll probably get to the success you are seeking if you don't stop and
Oh
keep
yeah, man.
evolving.
I mean, I wish I was, you know, I wish I was, I'm insanely successful, and insanely grateful for my fans and my clients. And I'm successful because of them. But like, you know, everybody wants to be a little more successful. Everybody wants a little more comfort, a little more security in their life, and a little more of this. And everyone wants to, you know, you don't just, if you're lifting weights, you don't just lift the same weight every single week. You try to advance a little bit, you know, like you try to gain more skills. And it's the same way with jewelry. Like, you know, like if you don't feel like you're at a spot where you want to be, then start busting your ass trying to get to that spot. You know what I mean? Because you'll never get there by talking about it and by sitting there and thinking about, oh, I'm not at that spot. Ah, fuck me. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not at that spot. Why?
What can I do?
What can I do? Marketing. What can I do? Materials. What can I do? Skills. Can I go take a course, a local course, to learn a little bit more? Can I have a conversation with another artist about their technique just to get some insight on something? You know, like, yeah, just keep pushing.
I know it's a cliched saying, but where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. And if there isn't, figure out why. If it's such a roadblock that it literally, like, you need to pay your bills and you're fucking hungry and it's not working out, you don't have to put it away forever, but maybe you should put it away for a little while.
Flip it to part-time.
Yeah, part-time, or like, you know, 1 day a week. 1 day a week is better than no days a week.
Yeah.
1 hour a week is better than no hours a week. You know what I mean? Like,
true that.
There was many times where, like I said, you know, I was scrounging for change in the couch. You know, it's the reality of starting your own business and making jewelry and all that shit.
Dude, you're a huge inspiration, man. Thanks for everything that you do. You got any last shout outs? And then after that, you know, where can they find you? I already link in the description, but shout outs and then where you are at on the social events.
Yeah, I mean, shout outs, I've done a lot already, but like just shout outs to everybody who's going for it, you know, like just keep going for it.
Here.
I'm trying to go for it every day. You're trying to go for it every day. Like, if it's something you're passionate about, then really just harness that and just put a lot of stock into it and push hard as fuck. If you don't feel like you have another hour in you, and you really realistically do, like, just go for another hour. You know what I mean? And
Usually it
then
gets
shout
easier
outs.
too over that mental hump.
Yeah, and it builds up resilience. So like I was saying too, like with the whole emotional drain of like, people ghosting on you and stuff like that, like that used to drain on me. I'm a human being. That's, putting effort into something and having people just bail on you, it can be defeating. But once you realize like, okay, well, I mean, this seems like it's gonna keep happening, then really appreciate those people that don't bail on you and make a little bit extra effort for those people that are there and that respond to you, and it will pay it forward emotionally, mentally, physically, like across the board. I appreciate you having me on here, man. It's been a super fun time.
It's been an honor. I'm so thankful. This has been amazing. Where can people find you on the internet?
So Instagram, B Harju Jewelry. Harju is spelled Harju.
Link in description.
Facebook, yeah, link in description. Facebook, you can find me. I've maxed out my friends like years ago, so I wish I could add more of
I
you.
think you're
But
B Haru Designs on Facebook. Is that right?
uh, it should be Harju Jewelry. It used to be
There you
Harju
go.
Designs, but it's
B Haru
Harju
Jewelry.
Jewelry. My website is www.bharju.com, BHARJU.com. And if you go there, I mean, you can link to all the other stuff from there, and my Facebook, links to my Instagram and all that stuff.
All right. Well, don't hang up yet, but I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'm sure this is going to be
Yeah,
watched
thank
by
you.
quite a few jewelers
Thank you,
and
everybody.
artists.
It's awesome. I appreciate you all.
Keep up
And
the
you.
great work.
I appreciate you, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, man. All right. Peace out, y'all.